Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. We got a little story, and then we're going to work on this pinball head. This is the fantastic, amazing Williams Black Knight pinball machine, but it's only the head of the knight. The body is somewhere else. But don't worry, everything is fine. It's going to be all right. So we had a gentleman come in one day, very nice guy, and he came in, he started asking questions, and basically he was asking if we work on things and if we could work on pinballs, and then it eventually got around to he has the head of the pinball machine in his car, and he wants to know if he can bring it in and have us look at it. So that's what we're looking at right now. So he has brought us just the head of a Black Knight pinball machine. Why, oh why would he do that? Well, we're going to look inside of it and see what's going on. So why did the guy bring us just the head? Well, it's because he's retired, and it's in his home, but it's upstairs. So he couldn't easily bring us the entire machine. It's pretty impressive that he brought us the head of it, actually. So what is it doing? He said that it was not retaining its scores, which he has seen it do before, and so he understands that it has to do with the batteries in it. And he said he knows how to go through and, you know, set it all back up, but he has to do it every time that he turns it on. So he wants us to get the scores saving again, and he thinks that it's the battery holder. So we're going to check that out. And normally we don't work on stuff if we've just got part of it. But for him, we said we'd make an exception. And if it doesn't fix it, we'll have him bring back some boards or something. So I had Joe look at it. And so Joe was trying to figure out why it doesn't save the settings. And he told me he left me a note with what all is wrong with it. Oh, come on. Joe, you're supposed to write down exactly what's wrong with it. This is ridiculous. So we don't have the whole thing to plug it up and see what's going on. And Joe's no help. But I figured what we'd do is we'd look through it, see if there's anything obvious besides the batteries, and then we'll fix just that and let him have it back. So the way these things work, power comes in, comes over to here. It's a good idea to put a little update on it where it's got a, there are separate fuses over here for the two bridge rectifiers. The power supply, it looks like at some point it's been serviced because they put two caps in where one goes. Probably adding the values together to get the right value capacitor. So at some point they worked on that. It's got a little label that says power right there. I believe though that's the fuse for the solenoids. So I don't know. So here is the speech board and soundboard. Looks like it's been worked on at some point. Okay, and so the power supply creates the power, sends it over to the MPU. Batteries replaced quite a while ago. So yeah, it's ready for some more. So we'll pull that out and check it out. So basically, he believes that the main problem, what it basically needs, is the batteries taken care of. So that's what we're going to do. We're not going to do anything extra because we don't want to create problems or him to think that we created problems. You know, we're basically just going to do what he wants us to do. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to show you a way that you can update the battery holder inexpensively and not have to worry about it leaking alkaline all over the board. As you know, AA batteries, if they're left alone a long time, sometimes will leak alkaline. They don't always do it, but sometimes they do it. Those have been there, it says, since 2002. We should be able to tell by the expiration date on the battery. So they've been in there quite a while. Okay, and also This is a System 7, by the way. It's very similar to System 3 versus 3 through 6. This is the display master board. By this time, they were using the ribbon cables. And then here are the 5 displays. Very cool. Okay, so I need to pull that board out. Now, to take out the MPU, you also have to take out the driver board. You could probably finagle it where you just take it loose and it's hanging there by the wires and you slide it off, but you kind of need to take both of them out. So we're going to have to disconnect every one of these connectors around it and take both of those out because they're connected together in the middle. Okay, folks, so we have simply removed them from the game. Now the driver board does switches up here, lamps down here, and solenoids over here. Okay, so that has nothing to do with what we're doing. So I'm going to separate it from the MPU. The way that it is connected is with these big long pins on the MPU that stick through a female socket on the driver board. So it's just stuck together with 40 pins. This thing's problematic sometimes. But again, we're not trying to fix every little thing on the game. He just wants us to mess with the batteries. So that's what we're going to do. So let me pull that apart so that we're only messing with the MPU. Okay, so you simply just pull it off. Okay. Now the reason that you need the batteries is because on a Williams System 7, it's System 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think there was 5. 3, 4, 6, 7. The batteries are actually used to save a lot of the settings and also like the high scores and stuff like that. On a Bally game, you can usually run the game without the batteries in it. It's got one battery soldered to the bottom. But you can run it without that battery and it will still work. The displays will look a little weird when you start the game, but they'll be fine once you start playing. And most of them don't save any settings. And later on, they started having it save a few settings, but it wasn't critical stuff. Okay, but on the Williams games, it was kind of critical stuff. Basically, the game wouldn't start up without good batteries in it. It would trigger a memory protect circuit, which basically you couldn't start the game unless you opened the front door and hit a button. So that's what he's having to do every time he starts it. So on a Bally, if the battery dies, they leaked horribly. But if the battery dies, the game would still keep playing. You could still put quarters in it. On a Williams, if the battery dies, the game forgets its settings and then immediately won't let you play any more games. So you need some kind of battery or power situation, or the game will continuously do this every time you turn it on. It's really annoying. So the way that they made that happen was the games had a 5101 chip in it, which I suppose is this. SCM 5101. So someone has replaced that at some point. So one of the pins there gets power from these batteries so that it'll retain its settings. It needs about 2 volts while the game's turned off to remember its settings. So when you turn the game off, the batteries are still there. They provide, if you get 3 AA's, you're actually getting about 4.5 volts, and then it runs through a diode. So you're getting probably 4 volts over to it with fresh batteries. Now, AA batteries, they steadily lose the traditional AA batteries. There's also lithium ones and all that, but just your regular AA battery, they steadily lose their voltage as they wear out. And you probably know this if you've ever measured one. So if you've got like back in the day whenever you had to put them in Walkmans and your remote control, you know, your remote control will still work, but it just don't work as good. And then you put fresh batteries in it, it seems to work better. It's because the voltage is higher. So these will eventually wear out. But the problem with alkaline batteries is they will start leaking all over the machine, right? So we're going to pop these out and just see if they've got any voltage left. I don't know what happened to the third one. I guess he left it out. And then we're going to see how bad our battery damage is. Okay. So here is the holder that it looks like was probably replaced at some point. looks pretty nasty. That one's not too bad, but then the pin down below it is. And that one looks like somebody's tried to clean it up. That one actually looks pretty good. That one looks good. And that one looks good. So it looks like they were all leaking on the same side. I don't know if that's common, that they always leak out of the same side. But this was the negative side of the battery. Let's see if these batteries themselves were the ones that did it. No, they look fine. Maybe. Looks to me what probably happened was the batteries before this were the ones that leaked. And he's probably been having issues. So let's see if there is a date code on these. March of 2030. Well, I think maybe that must be a typo then. He must mean 2022. February of 2022. I don't think that would, 2002, it wouldn't last that long. Let's see if this one has the same date code. It's under the sticker. You would assume it would be the same. Let me take that off. Yeah, it's the same date code. So this must just be a typo. 2030, usually the date codes are like 8 or 10 years out. So yeah, okay. So they're not as old as we thought. So I think what happened was the old ones leaked, he threw them away and he put new ones in, and it didn't work because they're not making good contact here. So there's a bunch of ways you can handle this, okay? There's several ways to fix this problem. One way is you can take this holder off and put a brand new one on it and put 3 AA batteries in it. Alkaline, cheap AA batteries like you usually get. And then what people do is every year, usually, you know, most people try to do it on the 1st of January. This is an old school thing that everybody does. 1st of January, you go around New Year's and you change all the batteries in your old pinball machines. So you're changing them once a year just to make sure that they don't leak. Well, that costs you a little bit of money because every year you're putting new batteries in things that don't really need new batteries. Those batteries will probably last 5 or 6 years without leaking, but you don't know that. They might start leaking 6 months after you put them in, you know. So that's one way you can do it. You can put in a new holder and just be really good about changing the batteries. But that's probably the hardest way to do it because nobody changes the batteries once a year like they need to. This gentleman was attempting to remind himself by putting a date on it so that he could look at it at a glance and not leave them in there too long. So that's one way you can do it. You could also just clean the connector up. This isn't bad enough that it has to be replaced. We're going to get rid of it, but you could clean this up and just keep reusing it. So that's another way. You can also put lithium batteries in here that don't leak. Or it doesn't leak the same, at least, right? Lithium can leak, but it usually doesn't. So you could put lithium AA batteries in here, and that would solve the problem as well. Another thing you could do is you could either solder, or you could, they make some that have a holder that just snaps in here. You could put a remote battery holder on it. So you have lines that come over here, and the batteries are mounted over here in the back box. And so if they start doing crummy stuff and eating up the connector and mine are over here and they're just like a volcano of festering pus, that's fine because it's not over here on your expensive board. Okay. It actually can travel through the wires though. I've seen that too, but that's another way of doing it. Yet another way of doing it is you can take a couple wires and run off of here from the positive and the negative and run it over to, a lot of people will use a cell phone, or not cell phone, a portable phone battery. So we don't have these as much anymore, but back in the day, if you're older, of course you remember this, everybody had these portable phones, so you would put at your house, you would put a phone on the stand and it would charge it. Well, that's because there was a battery inside the phone. And so it used to be if that thing screwed up, you could go to Radio Shack or whatever and buy a replacement for it. Those are a little harder to get to, right? So I don't like the AA battery solution because you're just going to have the same problem. Okay, and if you do the remote battery holder, that works pretty good, but you still have the same problem. The batteries are going to leak. I don't like putting the lithium batteries in, because what happens then is somebody takes them out whenever they die or whatever and just puts regular batteries in it, so you're still not fixing the problem. You can put an NVRAM solution in it. So you can replace this 5101 with a chip that doesn't need battery backup. And so this one's already even in a socket. It wouldn't be all that hard to do, but I don't have any of those. I got a guy that I buy them from, and he's out of them. But that's a pretty good solution too. It's actually, in my opinion, the best solution. So what we're going to do is what I would call the next best solution outside of putting an NVRAM in. So let me throw this at you, okay? You can take this AA battery holder off and get rid of it. And you can replace it with a button battery holder very easily that you put a watch battery in. Now the downside of this is the watch battery, the voltage isn't as high. It's only 3 volts instead of 4.5 volts. But it's lithium, so it doesn't leak as easily. They can leak, but they hardly ever do. It doesn't leak as much, and it's only 3 volts. Okay, the chip really only needs 2 volts though to run it. So anything above 2 is fine. The 4.5 doesn't make it run better than 3. The reason they use 4.5 is so when the batteries start dying, all the way down to you having 2 volts in the batteries, it will still run it. On a watch battery, they don't really die like that. The way they die is you got 3 volts, 3 volts, 3 volts, 3 volts, 3 volts, and then you got 0 volts. It's just kind of, they die all at once, kind of. Okay? So in this situation, they work pretty good. It doesn't have as much juice, though. You know, these, I don't even know if it has the rating on these. Let's see. These are Duracells. Alkaline. All right, I don't know the amount of, I don't know the proper terminology, so I won't say, but basically those will last longer than a watch battery. A watch battery won't last as long as old school AA batteries. However, a watch battery is very easy to get. You can get it at the grocery store, you can get it at Walmart, you can get it at the drugstore. It's very easy to pop in and it won't leak. In this type of setup, it's going to probably last a couple years, maybe a little longer before that thing drains out, because all it's doing is supplying power to this chip. So I think it's a good little alternative to an NVRAM if you can't do the NVRAM. I just like it. So that's what we're going to do for the guy, and it'll be that'll get rid of his problem where it's leaking acid. It'll still leave him the ability to replace the battery since he knows how to do the setup and change the settings and stuff. And I think it'll be good for this situation. Also, the other benefit of it is it's very inexpensive. It doesn't cost much at all, especially if you're a place like our place where we can order 50 of them and do them, you know, one at a time. If you're just ordering one, you have to worry about shipping. But if I'm buying 50, the shipping isn't anything, right? Oh, there's one other thing you can do too. You can install a big capacitor, right? Something like this. But these have a downside too. The downside of these is they work great as long as you play them every once in a while. You have to charge this capacitor back up every once in a while. If you let the thing sit for 2 or 3 weeks without playing it, this capacitor drains out. Basically you run it through the same problem, right? So it's like a battery that dies over and over again that you don't have to replace. But some people love these. If you're the type of person that plays them all the time, this is a good solution. But the thing is, most people that buy a pinball machine for their house, they don't play them all the time. They play them once every couple of months. That's usually how it goes. Okay, so we're not going to be doing that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I think I'll check the voltage on the batteries. Let's see if there's anything left. Oh, wait, no, we done decided that those were new anyway, didn't we? Let me see if I can do it with one hand here. Maybe. Maybe not. Nah, I'll do it and let you know what I found out. But I'm going to take the holder out and desolder it, and we'll see if there's any damage to the actual board. Okay, so with the holder off, you can kind of see what the problem was. It was this connection here. So this is the positive lead that goes up to the board. And then it connects to negative. There is a strap on the back that goes over to here, a trace, positive to negative, and then a trace, positive to negative. So the problem was, if that one's not making good contact, the battery's never going to connect right. Okay, so apparently this had already been replaced once before, because someone had cleaned all this up a little bit. Okay, but corrosion had reared its ugly head once more. Okay, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit, and then I'm going to show you how we put the little button holder on there. Alright, cleaned all the corrosion off. You can put a little bit of vinegar on it, which will help neutralize if there's any if there's any base left from the battery. So alkaline is a base. You put vinegar on it, which is a acid. You're trying to help balance the pH a little bit, right? So you can clean it up with that too. So we've got to reroute the wire a little bit. I'll show you how we do that. But let me get the little holder, and I believe it lines right up with that sucker. Little inexpensive holder. It works so well because the two pins perfectly fit in the two holes. Look at that. Don't get much more clean than that, folks. But see how one of them's a plus and one of them's a plus, so it looks like it wouldn't work, right? It's just because of the way the wires are routed. So different holders hold them different ways, but you can see that the battery has a plus on one side, and the only way it'll go in the holder is where this pin on this end is what's touching it. So this is the positive side, this is the negative side. The negative is that piece that's under there touching the bottom of it. So you got a positive and a negative, obviously. So you need to just figure out for your holder which is which, right? So the positive goes to this big trace. If you look, it comes up here, and then it goes through this diode. Which is right here, right over to here, which is here, and it runs up and is powering this. So this is basically where the voltage from the battery is going. Okay, that's how they get it over to the chips that need it. All right, so I'm going to mount that in, and then we're going to check to see if we've got voltage over it. Okay, so I soldered it in, positive going towards the board, that trace, and then the negative is just over here, which was also a positive hole originally. And the way that it works, of course, on this is that the batteries themselves connect positive to negative, positive to negative, positive to negative. They're connected in series. And then you have a negative connection all the way down here. So that's just the ground of the board. So we need the ground to be right there. So on the back of the board, you can kind of see it right now. There is a trace that runs from the beginning of the second battery down to this part of the first battery. So the easiest kind of way to do it is just run a jumper from here to here. So if you run a jumper from here to here, you've made that trace a ground. So that side's ground, and that side's your voltage. So here's the positive, here's the negative. We ran a jumper from here over to the negative. Easy peasy. Very simple to do, very quick, doesn't cost much. And then I filled in the other ones that don't have anything mounted. Sorry, somebody came in. So the other two holes that aren't used, I put a little solder in too. The only reason I do that is just so if somebody looks at it, they don't think something's missing from the board. It looks like somebody must have worked on it, right? If you got a big open hole, somebody might go, "Ah, something's ripped off." Okay, so let's check the voltage now on this. So I need to start using my leads that have a clip on it. You'd think I'd learn. I would learn eventually. Let's see if I can rig down up to ground. I think I can. This is why you watch my videos, people, for the intense production quality. Okay, here we go. I'm ready. I don't think it's connected good enough. Come on, work with me. All right, so the battery itself is 3.28 volts. Okay, now if I check the trace, 3.28 volts. If I check this side of the diode, 3.28 volts, and then it runs through a diode. The other side of the diode is 2.8 volts. Now, why does it do that? It's so that the board, when it's turned on and has 5 volts on everything, doesn't send 5 volts back to the battery. Okay, so it's 2.8 volts after it runs through the diode. And once it gets over to the other trace by the chip, it's 2.8. And then on the leg of the actual chip, 2.799. Okay, well above the 2 volts that you need. And remember, these don't drop in voltage usually. It will stay that voltage until it's gone. The main problem that you would have with doing this, it won't leak, but the main problem that you would have with doing this is that it won't last as long as 3 AA batteries. But that's fine. Okay, so that's that. Now, normally we would do some more stuff to the board, but you know, we're just doing this repair for this guy. We don't want to do a bunch of stuff and cause more problems because he said it's working fine. So if there's another problems, we're going to have him bring back boards and we'll get it working for him. But all he wanted done was the battery situation, and we have just confirmed that there is voltage on the chip. Good to go. All right, folks, so we got it back in there with the new battery holder. Everything plugged back up. Screwed back in how it was. Simple little repair. Hopefully that gets it going for the guy, and it'll save him the trouble of having to bring the whole thing in or some boards in or whatever. So we'll see what he says happens with that. Looks like he's been taking care of it. He's at some point put in all new bulbs, and you know, it's looking pretty good. So I hope that gets it going for him. This is the kind of, you know, little minor repairs we run into sometimes, and I hope that helps you, gives you at least some options on your Williams MPUs if you're considering getting rid of those AA batteries, which I would. I would guess probably half of the Williams machines of that vintage out there probably still have the AA battery holders in them, so probably a good thing to update. So I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. Sorry we didn't have a way to plug it up and test it. But we tested that the voltage is getting to the chip, and that was the stated problem. So I think that's going to do it. Like I said, leave your comments below. Make sure to check out all of our other videos. We've got tons of videos. Did you know we're getting near 1,000 videos by this point? We've almost got 1,000 videos. It's pretty crazy. So check out some of those. You don't have to watch all 1,000 of them if you haven't been here for a while. But we appreciate everybody that's subscribed to us. We just recently broke 50,000 subscribers, which is crazy. 50,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? The rest of us are subscribed. Yeah, I subscribed to my own channel. Don't worry about it. It was fun. I needed to at the beginning. Now, do you want to know how you can support our channel for free? Let me tell you how you can support our channel for free. In this life that we're living, this wonderful world of ours, we all have to spend a little bit of money even if we don't want to, right? So there's certain things that you have to buy. And some of us find ourselves on Amazon.com buying things from time to time. If you are one of those people who has bought things from Amazon, raise your hand. Okay, so if you're going to buy something from Amazon, there is a link to Amazon below each one of our videos, and also on our website, www.lionsarcade.com. We have a parts page on there where we link a bunch of the things that we use in our repairs and things like that. Most of them are simply links to Amazon. If you're finding yourself you're going to buy something on Amazon, or you're going to buy one of the things that we have a link to on Amazon, if you just click the link before you buy whatever you buy, Maybe you're going to buy a complete in the box Nintendo action set. Do they still make those? I don't know if they still make those. You might not be able to get that on Amazon. But let's say you're going to buy something like that. You can click our link. This is basically an advertisement for them. And then it sends you to Amazon. Whenever you buy that, it gives us a percentage of whatever you pay for it. Doesn't raise your prices or anything, but it gives us a little bit of the money that you spend on Amazon. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. It's really been helping the channel out. But if you can't do that or you don't buy on Amazon, that's fine too. We appreciate you watching. And finally, last but not least, don't forget to check out my brother Donnie. My brother Donnie has his own channel here on YouTube. He's literally my brother. And I'm over there with him a lot of times getting in trouble. So we just recently did a video about an old Ford pickup that we repaired and some things like that. So go check that out if you haven't already. And a fun time will be had by all. So I hope you enjoyed this. We will see you on the next repair video, which will be probably, usually, 2 days from the day that we uploaded this one. So we'll see you then.